Rain slammed against the jagged cliffs like angry fists. Lightning split the dark sky, illuminating the craggy edges of the mountainside. Somewhere deep inside the storm-lashed cavern, a child's cry echoed, a sharp, desperate sound that sliced through the roar of wind. Leo's small voice trembled as he stumbled over slick rocks, his tiny hands scrabbling for something to hold onto. Every second the walls threatened to collapse around him. Above, Marcus's boots slipped on wet stone, but he pressed forward, heart pounding. "Hold on, Leo. I'm coming," he shouted, voice nearly drowned by the storm. He dodged a falling shard of rock and leaped across a narrow gap, landing hard but steady. Instinct told him the cavern could give way at any moment. One wrong step and both he and the child could vanish into the abyss below. As Marcus reached for Leo, a deep, resonant rumble shook the cave, rattling the crystals embedded in its walls. The sound wasn't like thunder. It was alive, intelligent, measured, a power that made Marcus freeze mid-step. From the darkness above, two glowing eyes appeared, massive and golden, staring straight at him. Wings larger than the cavern itself unfurled silently, but the air shook with every subtle movement. Marcus's stomach dropped. The Dragon King had arrived. Marcus swallowed his fear. He couldn't panic. Not now. He dropped to a crouch, quickly scanning the space for loose stones, planning a path to Leo. Another rumble echoed, louder this time, vibrating the ground beneath him. A heavy rock began to fall from the ceiling, and Marcus threw himself forward, scooping Leo into his arms just in time. The impact sent them sliding along the wet stone, scraping Marcus's arms and leaving streaks of blood. Pain lanced through him, but he ignored it. Survival came first. "Leo, stay close. Don't move," he hissed, his voice shaking but firm. The child clutched him tightly, tears mixing with the rain that had crept into the cavern. Leo's small body trembled with fear, but his eyes stayed wide open, taking in the glowing form above them. The Dragon King's gaze was intense, studying them without blinking. Marcus could feel the raw power emanating from the massive creature. But there was no immediate attack. Just watchfulness, as if Kalathar, the dragon, was measuring whether they were worth noticing, or just a passing inconvenience. Marcus didn't waste a second. He placed Leo behind a jagged outcrop, using the rock as a shield. "We have to move," he said quietly, glancing up at the immense shadow that shifted with the cave's vibration. He calculated the distance to the cavern's exit, the safest path, all while his mind raced. He needed speed, but every step had to be precise. One mistake and the collapsing rocks wouldn't be their only threat. A flash of lightning revealed something strange on the cavern walls. Faint crystals pulsing with blue light, reacting to the Dragon King's presence. The air shimmered slightly around them, and Marcus realized these weren't ordinary stones. Whatever magic, or science, this was, it could either help or hurt them. He made a snap decision. If he timed it right, the crystals might give them a brief advantage. "Leo, hold tight," he whispered. Marcus edged forward, leading the child along a narrow ledge. The crystal's glow flickered as Kalathar moved, almost as if the dragon's energy was stirring them. A rock pillar collapsed just ahead, and Marcus used the crystal light as a guide to leap across the gap. Leo screamed, but Marcus caught him midair, rolling onto the stone to break the fall. The Dragon King shifted again. Marcus caught the movement out of the corner of his eye, a graceful, terrifying sweep of the wings that created a shockwave through the cavern. Dust and small rocks rained down, forcing Marcus to shield Leo and crouch low. His arms burned from earlier scrapes, his lungs ached from running, but he felt something surge inside him: determination. Humans survived by thinking, by acting, by refusing to let fear control them. He had to survive for Leo. Then a low growl reverberated through the cave, a warning or maybe a challenge. Marcus glanced up. The Dragon King lowered his head, massive jaws opening slightly, revealing teeth like polished ivory. Yet, instead of fire, a strange, deep hum vibrated from the cavern, syncing with the crystal's pulses. Marcus's mind raced. This dragon wasn't just a beast. It was intelligent, aware. Perhaps it understood more than any human could guess. A bolt of lightning struck the cliff above, causing a spray of debris to tumble toward them. Marcus shielded Leo with his own body, taking a hard hit to the shoulder. Pain stabbed through him, but he gritted his teeth. Almost there, he muttered, dragging the child forward. Suddenly, a massive crack split the cavern wall. Dust and shards of stone filled the air, and the ground beneath Marcus shifted. For a moment, it seemed the earth itself would swallow them. Marcus froze, holding Leo tightly, heart pounding, sweat and rain mingling on his brow. Then the Dragon King moved. Not with aggression but with sheer, careful precision. Kalathar's wings beat once, creating a sudden gust that diverted some of the falling rocks. An unexpected, almost conscious act. Marcus's breath caught. The dragon had saved them, temporarily at least. A strange alliance, fragile and dangerous, had begun. But the cavern wasn't finished testing them yet. Ahead, a narrow opening glimmered with a faint blue glow, their only escape. Marcus tightened his grip on Leo. "Hold on," he said, voice low but urgent. "We're not done yet." From the darkness above, Kalathar's eyes followed them, unblinking and golden, filled with questions Marcus couldn't begin to answer. And behind that gaze, a sense of destiny stirred, a force older than any human mind. Then a low, rumbling growl rolled through the cavern, deeper and more threatening than before. A shadow shifted in the far corner, barely visible but immense. Marcus froze, Leo trembling in his arms. Something else was in the cave, watching, waiting, and it was not the Dragon King. The next moment, the cavern floor beneath them shuddered violently, a crack splitting the stone directly in their path. Marcus leapt instinctively, dragging Leo with him, but what they would face beyond the glowing exit remained a mystery, a threat that could change everything. Marcus's lungs burned as he and Leo scrambled through the narrow opening, the faint blue glow from the crystals guiding their path. The cave trembled with each beat of Kalathar's wings above, and debris tumbled behind them. The air was thick with dust and the smell of wet stone. Leo clung to Marcus tightly, his small body shaking with fear, but his eyes were wide, curious. Even in danger, the child noticed everything. "Almost there," Marcus whispered, scanning the path ahead. Every step was calculated. One misstep could send them plummeting into another fissure. He gritted his teeth, ignoring the pain in his scraped arms, the sting of cuts from falling rock, and the cold rain dripping through cracks in the ceiling. He could not afford to falter, not with Leo depending on him. Then a sharp metallic clink echoed through the cavern. Marcus froze, his heart pounding. It wasn't falling stone. It was deliberate, almost mechanical. A strange, low hum followed, vibrating through the crystal-lined walls. The crystals reacted, glowing brighter, pulsing rhythmically with an energy that made Marcus's skin tingle. Something, or someone, was waiting for them deeper in the cave. "Marcus," Leo whispered. His voice trembled. "What is it?" Marcus glanced down at him, forcing calm into his tone. "Nothing yet, but we have to stay close. Keep moving but don't make noise." He tightened his grip on Leo, stepping carefully over jagged rocks. Each movement was precise, calculated. He realized this wasn't just about escaping the cave, it was about understanding what else lived here, and why Kalathar had appeared when Leo cried. Suddenly, a shadow darted across the wall. Marcus yanked Leo behind a jagged outcrop, holding his breath. The shadow paused, then vanished. But the hum from the crystals intensified, as if reacting to movement, to presence. Marcus's mind raced. Could the crystals be sensing emotions? Or were they some kind of ancient warning system? Kalathar's wings beat once above them, stirring the air violently. Marcus braced himself against the wall, feeling the pressure of the dragon's presence. Somehow, the Dragon King's careful observation gave him hope. Kalathar wasn't attacking. Not yet. Perhaps the dragon understood that humans could be clever, resourceful, even heroic. Marcus allowed himself a brief, quiet smile. Then the ground shifted. A crack opened beneath them, forcing Marcus to jump with Leo in his arms. The crystals flickered wildly, illuminating something strange in the shadows. A carved symbol on the cavern wall, faint but unmistakable. Marcus's pulse quickened. It resembled the mark on Leo's wrist. The same mark. A prophecy? An ancient warning? He didn't have time to think. He had to move. As they advanced, a low growl rolled from deeper inside the cave, sharper and more threatening than Kalathar's earlier rumble. Marcus froze, listening. The sound wasn't dragon-like. It was smaller, quicker, intelligent. Something was hunting them. Marcus made a split-second decision. He set Leo down behind a crystal formation and peered around cautiously. He spotted a pair of glowing eyes, smaller than Kalathar's but no less terrifying, reflecting the pulsing light of the crystals. A strange, scaled creature slinked through the shadows, its movements precise, almost calculating. Marcus's heart thumped. They weren't alone. "Leo, stay still," he whispered, pulling a jagged rock from the ground. If the creature attacked, he'd have to act fast. Marcus's mind raced, thinking of ways to use the environment. The glowing crystals, they might be able to distract it. Or even scare it. Humans survived by thinking, by adapting, by taking risks others wouldn't. The creature lunged suddenly. Marcus threw the rock toward the pulsing crystals. Light flared, momentarily blinding the shadowy predator. Marcus grabbed Leo and ran, dodging falling stones. The creature hissed, frustrated, but didn't pursue immediately. Marcus allowed himself a breath of relief. His quick thinking had bought them time. They reached a wider chamber where the cave opened slightly to the storm outside. Rain poured in, flooding the ground with shallow water. Marcus noticed that the water reflected the crystal glow, creating a shimmering pathway. He gestured to Leo. "Follow me. Keep your feet on the stones." As they crossed, Marcus caught sight of Kalathar's massive silhouette perched on a ledge above, wings folded, watching intently. The dragon's eyes seemed almost approving, as if it recognized Marcus's courage and ingenuity. For a brief moment, Marcus felt a connection between human and dragon, a shared respect forged in danger. Then the unexpected happened. Another shadow moved in the corner of the chamber, larger and faster than the first. It wasn't the creature they had seen before. This one was bigger, stronger, and it charged with terrifying speed. Marcus reacted instantly, grabbing Leo and diving behind a large crystal formation. Rocks splintered around them as the creature slammed into the wall. Marcus's mind worked furiously. The narrow chamber, the pulsing crystals, the water, he needed to use all of it. With a deep breath, he stood, raised his arms and shouted toward the creature, hoping to startle it. Simultaneously, he kicked a loose crystal, sending it rolling across the water. The creature paused, disoriented by the unexpected reflection and sudden movement. "Run!" Marcus yelled, grabbing Leo's hand. They dashed through the chamber, hearts pounding, lungs burning. Behind them, the creature roared, frustrated but unable to follow through the shallow water. Marcus didn't look back. Survival demanded every ounce of focus, every bit of courage. They reached a narrow exit leading further up the cliffside. Marcus's legs ached, his arms burned, but he propelled himself forward, dragging Leo with him. The rain beat down harder and the wind howled, but he didn't stop. They were close to safety. Almost. A flash of lightning revealed movement in the clouds above. Kalathar's massive wings stretched wide, catching the light. The Dragon King didn't attack. Instead, he hovered, watching. Marcus's heart skipped a beat. There was something more here, a bigger test perhaps. And then, from the shadows beyond the exit, a pair of glowing red eyes appeared, far larger than the first creature. It crouched silently, waiting, patient and massive. Marcus froze, Leo clutching his arm. Their path to safety was no longer certain. Marcus tightened his grip on the child, took a deep breath and whispered, "Stay close, we're not done yet." The cave trembled. Rocks shifted. And from the depths, the second predator moved forward, faster than Marcus thought possible. The danger had escalated. Survival was about to demand more than courage, it would demand brilliance. Marcus froze at the edge of the cliffside path, Leo pressed tightly to his chest. The red-eyed shadow crouched just beyond the exit, muscles rippling beneath scales that glinted faintly in the stormlight. The creature's breath hissed through nostrils wider than Marcus's arms, and every exhale rattled loose stones around them. Marcus's mind raced. The narrow ledge offered little room to maneuver. One wrong move could send them plunging into the dark abyss below. Leo's small fingers dug into his shoulder, and Marcus felt a pang of urgency sharper than the wind's bite. They had to survive, but how? The creature was faster, stronger, and smarter than any ordinary predator. Then Marcus noticed it, a faint glow on Leo's wrist, the mark he had glimpsed before. It pulsed faintly as if reacting to the creature, or to Kalathar hovering silently above. Marcus's eyes widened. Could the mark be some kind of key? A signal? An ancient link between human and dragon? He had to act and fast. "Leo, stay calm," he whispered, voice low but firm. The child's wide eyes met his, shimmering with fear and wonder. Marcus realized something vital. Courage wasn't just about running or fighting, it was about using what little control he had to shape events, to survive intelligently. The creature lunged. Marcus sidestepped, sliding over wet rock, and pressed Leo into a narrow corner along the cliff wall. He looked upward, toward Kalathar. The Dragon King's golden eyes tracked the predator. Marcus understood. Kalathar wasn't here just to watch. Perhaps the dragon was waiting to see what humans could do, whether they were clever enough, brave enough to survive on their own. An idea struck him. The crystals that pulsed in the cave had reacted to Kalathar's energy before. Perhaps they could respond to Leo's mark too. Marcus carefully set Leo down and moved toward the nearest cluster of crystals. "Leo, hold still," he instructed, crouching low. He pressed the child's wrist against the largest crystal, feeling a tiny warmth radiate through his hands. The crystal pulsed brighter, sending a ripple of light along the cliffside path. The creature froze mid-step. Its glowing red eyes flicked toward the crystal and it hissed, a sound of surprise, confusion, frustration. Marcus seized the moment. He grabbed a loose rock and flung it past the creature, distracting it further. The predator's attention snapped between the light and the sudden movement. "Now, Leo!" Marcus shouted. He scooped the child up, sprinting along the narrow ledge toward a safer, wider section of the cliff. The creature lunged again but misjudged its path, slipping on wet stone. Marcus felt his heart hammering. They were alive, by ingenuity, quick thinking, and courage. Humans had survived impossible odds before and they could survive again. As they reached a small plateau, Marcus allowed himself a quick glance upward. Kalathar hovered, wings folded now, seemingly observing rather than threatening. But the Dragon King's expression, or whatever Marcus interpreted as expression in a creature so alien, was unreadable. There was intelligence there and a quiet approval. It was as if Kalathar understood that humans could act decisively when the stakes were highest. Then Marcus saw movement in the plateau's shadows. A figure crouched, smaller than the red-eyed predator, almost childlike in shape, but unmistakably scaled. It stepped into the crystal light. Marcus's breath caught. The mark on Leo's wrist glowed brighter in response. The new figure was not attacking. It watched, tense but still. Marcus realized the truth. These creatures weren't mindless hunters. They were guardians, or observers. And Leo's mark? It wasn't just a mark. It was a signal, a legacy. Humans with courage, intelligence, and compassion could affect even the Dragon King's domain. The child's survival wasn't random. Mattered. "Leo, do you understand?" Marcus asked quietly. The child nodded, trembling but determined. Marcus smiled, despite his exhaustion. They weren't helpless. They could influence events. Humans had done it before, shaping outcomes when others doubted them. The smaller creature took a cautious step forward, then another, closer to the crystal light. Marcus felt a thrill of hope. Perhaps they could communicate, perhaps even influence these beings through empathy, courage, and quick thinking. He hadn't realized it yet, but this was the turning point. Their choices here could change everything, not just survival but destiny itself. Suddenly, a sharp gust of wind swept over the plateau. Kalathar beat his wings, sending a wave of air that pushed the smaller creature back toward the shadows. Marcus instinctively shielded Leo, heart pounding. The Dragon King wasn't hostile, but the wing's force reminded him of the raw, unpredictable power above. One misstep could undo everything. The ground beneath them shifted, faint tremors warning of instability. Marcus's mind raced. Every decision mattered. He saw the red-eyed predator retreat slightly, as if uncertain about the glowing mark and the Dragon King's presence. Marcus had created a fragile advantage. One wrong action and the predator would strike again. "Leo, trust me," Marcus whispered. He reached out to the smaller creature, holding his hand steady, showing no fear. Slowly, the creature stepped into the light, watching him, testing his intentions. Marcus held his breath. If he misjudged Leo and he could be lost. The cave trembled again, but this time Marcus felt a surge of possibility. Human courage, intelligence, and empathy had altered the balance. They had survived the immediate danger, earned Kalathar's attention, and opened a door to understanding something far larger than themselves. But just as relief began to take hold, a distant roar echoed from deeper in the cliff, a sound darker, older, and more powerful than anything they had encountered so far. Marcus stiffened, heart sinking. Their trials were far from over. Whatever waited beyond the next curve would test them in ways they could not yet imagine. Marcus pulled Leo close, his jaw set. "Stay close," he whispered, voice firm. "We're just getting started." The wind howled. The crystals pulsed. And from the shadows beyond, an unseen presence stirred, watching, waiting, and ready to challenge everything Marcus thought he knew about courage, intelligence, and the power of humans in a world ruled by dragons. Marcus felt a cold surge of fear as the roar rolled through the cliffside cavern, shaking loose stones from the walls. The unseen presence from before revealed itself. A massive dragon larger than Kalathar, scales dark as storm clouds, eyes burning like molten lava. It moved with terrifying precision, each step cracking rock underfoot. The ground trembled beneath Marcus and Leo, and even Kalathar's wings struggled to steady against the rising wind. "Leo, stay close," Marcus shouted, pressing the child to his chest. The boy's small arms clung tightly around him, trembling but silent. Marcus's mind raced. They had survived predators, narrow ledges and collapsing caves, but this was different. The sheer size of the storm dragon dwarfed everything they had faced. It wasn't just a threat. It was a living avalanche of muscle, teeth and ancient power. The massive dragon's roar echoed again, and Kalathar responded immediately, wings beating in a protective shield over Marcus and Leo. Marcus's heart pounded. He had one chance to act, one opportunity to protect Leo and survive. He scanned the plateau quickly, noting the pulsing crystals, the unstable rocks and the narrow escape ledge leading upward toward the stormy cliff above. "Leo, we have to use the crystals," Marcus said, voice low but determined. "I need you to trust me." He set the child down carefully, feeling the pulsing warmth of the mark on Leo's wrist. He pressed it against the largest cluster of glowing stones, and the crystals reacted instantly, flaring with intense blue light that reflected across the plateau. The storm dragon halted mid-step, its glowing eyes flicking toward the sudden brilliance. Marcus seized the moment. He grabbed a long, jagged shard from the broken cliffside, swinging it to dislodge smaller stones that rolled toward the dragon. The creature hissed and stumbled slightly, distracted by the unexpected barrage. Marcus scooped Leo into his arms again and sprinted toward the narrow escape path, leaping over fissures and slipping rocks. Behind them, the dragon lunged, but the combination of crystal light and Kalathar's protective wind slowed its pursuit. Kalathar swooped low, wings beating furiously, generating a shockwave that lifted debris from the plateau and created a narrow corridor for Marcus to run. He glanced up, heart pounding with adrenaline. The Dragon King's golden eyes met his, and for a split second, Marcus felt a connection, not just fear but trust. Kalathar seemed to understand that humans could think, adapt, and survive where brute force alone failed. The storm dragon roared again, a sound that rattled bones and splintered stone. Marcus's vision blurred with rain, sweat, and exhaustion, but he didn't stop. He leapt across a collapsing ledge, landing hard and rolling to absorb the impact. Leo's small body bounced against him, but Marcus held him firmly, murmuring, "Almost there, almost there." Then the unexpected happened. From the shadows behind the storm dragon, smaller figures emerged, scaled creatures similar to the one from before but larger, more coordinated. They flanked the massive dragon, circling like predators with intelligence and strategy. Marcus froze for a split second. His heart sank. They were outnumbered and every second counted. Marcus's eyes scanned the plateau. The crystals. Their pulsing light could distract the smaller creatures. He grabbed a handful of stones, throwing them to scatter reflections across the plateau. The light flashed unpredictably, bouncing off water and crystal surfaces. The creatures hissed and paused, momentarily disoriented. Marcus felt hope surge. Humans survived because they could think faster than predators could react. Kalathar roared sharply, swooping in a protective arc above Marcus and Leo. The massive wings created a gust that pushed the storm dragon back slightly, giving Marcus the opening he needed. He grabbed Leo's hand and sprinted along a narrow ledge, the wind threatening to throw them off balance. Rain pelted their faces, but Marcus refused to slow down. Every step mattered. The storm dragon lunged again, but Marcus had calculated the timing perfectly. He jumped, rolling forward, pulling Leo with him just as the dragon's claws tore through the stone where they had stood moments before. The cliff beneath them trembled and a massive crack split the ledge. Marcus braced himself, dragging Leo upward along the jagged rocks. They reached a narrow ledge leading to an overhang high above the plateau. Kalathar hovered at the edge, wings partially folded, allowing Marcus and Leo to climb beneath the protective shadow. The storm dragon roared, fury echoing through the storm, but it could not reach them. Marcus paused, chest heaving, heart hammering. They were alive, for now. Leo looked up at him, wide-eyed but smiling faintly. "We did it, we survived," he whispered. Marcus hugged him tightly. "We're not done yet," he said, scanning the dark storm clouds above. "This was just one test. Something bigger is coming. And we'll face it, together." Kalathar landed beside them, massive claws scraping stone, eyes still fixed on Marcus. The Dragon King lowered his head close to Leo, nudging the child gently. Marcus realized that Kalathar wasn't just a protector. It was testing them, judging them, and in some strange way accepting them. Human courage, intelligence, and quick thinking had earned respect, even from a creature older and stronger than imagination. But as Marcus allowed himself a brief moment of relief, a sudden, deep vibration rolled through the cliffside. The crystals flickered violently and the storm intensified. From the distant heights, a shadow moved, larger than anything Marcus had seen, gliding silently through the clouds. It was a presence far older, far more dangerous than the storm dragon. Marcus's stomach tightened. This wasn't over. He tightened his grip on Leo and looked to Kalathar. The Dragon King's wings flexed, eyes narrowing as if sensing the coming threat. Marcus felt a surge of determination. Humans had survived impossible odds before. They would survive this too. They would have to. Stay close, Marcus whispered, voice firm, eyes scanning the storm. Whatever comes next, we face it together. The wind howled. Lightning split the clouds. The new shadow moved faster, larger, and more powerful than the last. Marcus and Leo stood side by side, ready to act, hearts pounding, courage unwavering. The real challenge was only beginning. The storm began to ebb, rain softening to a fine mist, though the wind still whipped sharply across the cliffs. Marcus stood at the edge of the plateau, Leo clinging to his chest, eyes wide but no longer trembling. Behind them, Kalathar's massive form folded into a protective crouch, golden eyes still tracking every movement. The air smelled of wet stone, ozone, and something ancient, power older than humans, older than memory. Marcus allowed himself a deep breath, though his muscles ached and his heart raced. They had survived the storm dragon, the predatory creatures, and the collapsing cliffs. Each challenge had tested them, demanded every ounce of courage, intelligence, and quick thinking they possessed. And somehow, through it all, they had made it. Leo's small voice broke the silence. Marcus, did we really do it? Yes, Marcus said quietly, brushing damp hair from the boy's forehead. We survived. Because we didn't give up. Because we stayed smart, stayed brave. He smiled faintly, feeling the weight of exhaustion and pride all at once. Humans can do that, even against creatures bigger and stronger than we are. Leo looked up at Kalathar, who lowered his massive head near them. The Dragon King's nostrils flared, releasing a warm gust of air. Marcus noticed the golden eyes softened, almost gentle, as Kalathar nudged Leo lightly. The boy laughed quietly, a sound of pure relief. Marcus felt a surge of gratitude and awe. The Dragon King, the living legend of the cliffs, had recognized their courage, their determination, their humanity. But the cave, and the cliffs beyond, still held mysteries. Marcus glanced down at Leo's wrist. The mark glowed faintly in response to Kalathar's presence, a quiet reminder of what had begun here. It was more than survival. The mark, the dragon, the crystals. They hinted at a destiny Marcus barely understood, but one that humans could shape. Courage, intelligence, and empathy had changed the outcome. Humans had influenced the course of an ancient world. Suddenly, movement caught Marcus's eye. From the cliffs below, the smaller creatures that had circled the storm dragon cautiously emerged, now approaching slowly, curious rather than hostile. Marcus's heart lifted. His quick thinking and willingness to act decisively had earned more than survival. They had opened a bridge of understanding. Humans could connect, could influence, could inspire, even in a world ruled by dragons. Kalathar's massive wings flexed, creating a gentle breeze that carried the creatures closer. The Dragon King tilted his head toward Marcus and Leo, as if acknowledging their role in this fragile peace. Marcus hugged Leo tightly. See? We're not just surviving. We're making a difference. The child's eyes shone with awe, and for the first time, he seemed to understand what had happened. Humans, with their courage and heart, could stand against impossible odds. Marcus scanned the horizon. Storm clouds still lingered, but beyond them, sunlight pierced the darkness in narrow shafts, glinting on the crystals embedded in the cliffs. He realized that each challenge, the storm, the predators, the unstable cliffs, had been part of a test. And though they had faced near impossible odds, humans had prevailed. Their resilience, intelligence, and morality had turned danger into opportunity. A sudden gust of wind from above shifted Marcus's attention. High in the clouds, a shadow passed, vast and silent. It was far larger than the storm dragon. Its shape hinted at something ancient, perhaps older than Kalathar himself. Marcus's stomach tightened. The challenges had not ended. But now he knew something crucial. Humans were capable of shaping their destiny no matter the odds. Marcus. Leo's voice was small but insistent. We'll face it together, Marcus said, voice firm, tone resolute. Whatever comes next, we face it as a team. He looked at Kalathar, who lowered his head slightly as if agreeing. The Dragon King's presence was a reminder. Humans could stand tall, even when the world seemed overwhelming. They could act with courage, intelligence, and heart. And sometimes, that was enough to change the course of events entirely. Leo laughed quietly, a sound of pure relief and wonder. Can we see the big one too? He asked, eyes sparkling with curiosity, pointing toward the distant shadow. Marcus smiled. Soon, he said. But first we live, we survive, and we learn. Humans do what dragons, storms, and the impossible cannot predict. We adapt, we endure, we rise. The crystals pulsed faintly, a soft glow reflecting across Marcus's determined face. Kalathar stepped closer to Leo, nudging the child gently. The Dragon King's massive shadow stretched across the cliff, protecting them as if claiming them under an unspoken pact. Marcus understood. Human courage and quick thinking had forged a fragile but powerful bond with creatures far beyond their understanding. And yet, the distant shadow in the clouds reminded him that their journey was only beginning. Danger, mystery, and ancient power waited beyond the horizon. But Marcus felt ready. Humans could face the impossible because they had heart, intelligence, and courage. That was their greatest weapon. That was their true power. He turned to Leo. "Remember this moment," Marcus said softly. "You'll carry it with you. Every challenge, every choice, it matters. Humans can shine even in the darkest places." Leo nodded, gripping Marcus's hand, eyes bright with determination. Kalathar's wings flexed once more, a gentle gust sweeping across the plateau. Marcus felt it like a blessing. They had survived. They had influenced fate. They had shown that humans, small and fragile as they might seem, could change worlds. As the mist rose, Marcus looked toward the horizon, where sunlight broke through clouds and the massive shadow lingered far above. A new challenge awaited, larger and more dangerous than anything they had faced. But this time Marcus knew they were ready. Humans would rise. Humans would endure. Humans would prevail. "Let's go," Marcus said, his voice steady. "The real adventure is just beginning."